I think it'll pick it up.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Sweet. So, hello, everybody on music in person. I know you as well, but I probably will later. But my name's Hanna. I graduated last May, med school. Thankfully, it went successfully. My cycle is, I guess that's why I'm here today. But Skylar so kindly asked me to give a little presentation about my application cycle. This will be really informal. I'm just going to give you like what happened to me and what's going on, and just like little tips and tricks. I was definitely not the traditional student. Like time-wise, yes, but my application is so just out there, and I should not have gotten accepted this cycle. Yeah, so we'll just go through it. Anyway, I'll give you guys like access to my email account, and then I'll add she would like to go over more questions. I'm also like, if you want any like help advice in the future, you can just reach out to me. And like that's what I like to do. I did that as all through college. Pure mentoring. All of you guys know. The rest of you do. So I'm going to just get started. So timeline wise, this is kind of the biggest part when you're applying to med school that Doug really helped me with. I met Doug for the first time in high school. So he's been like my mentor forever. And when he heard I wanted to go to nursing school and not med school, he was like, "You'll be back." And I came back 2 years after I finished nursing school, like, "Hey, Doug, I'm ready to go to med school now." But he kind of told me the process in high school. So it's been on the back of my mind all throughout life, all through college. But I didn't start doing any pre-med classes until like the end of my sophomore year. So I crushed all of them in like the last 3 years of college while doing my nursing degree, and that was like a lot of fun, but it's stressful. So I mean, you guys, you're not even part of the machine, but you guys already have it kind of mapped out, and if not, you're where I was when I decided to go to med school. This is like from the beginning. So I graduated nursing school in December of 2019. So no, 2018. So then there, I just did what Doug told me. And I wanted to get on track to apply by a certain time. I was dating somebody at the time, so I was like, timeline 2. I was just like, okay, I want to go to med school, but I'm not sure. So I just decided to take all the classes I needed. By the time it got to the point to register for the MCAT, that was what, last February we had to apply for it. That I knew there's like internships and stuff they do previously. So this is just application timeline, I would say, but during my junior summer, so right after the summer, right before I graduated, summer before I graduated, like Skylar did the Johns Hopkins internship. I did the same one. I loved it. It was great. It kind of solidified that I wanted to go to medicine. So if you are applying, and if you're thinking about it, it's a great thing. Even if you don't want to go into medicine. Like one of the girls that did it with me, she's going to she's going to grad school in organic synthesis. So it's like really cool to see the bigger picture, and it's not medicine per se. And Skylar could attest to this. You probably hear it all the time in UPMA, but it's a really eye-opening to see all the different aspects of medicine, because I got to work with pharmaceuticals like Sheena's going into. There's so much like genetic stuff, which is not my jam. So I don't listen to that, but it's a really good way to get involved, and I recommend it for your application. So July 2020, that's when I was, okay, I know I want to go to med school. I know I need to start getting ready to apply. And that was kind of like for me, which is scary. So I started collecting my application info then. So for example, like Skylar is playing this thing. So this last summer, when she was in the internship, that's when I was starting to already clear all of my applications. So what my biggest thing was journaling, and this is a horrible example, but because there's no right now. But this is just anyway. This is the research. Obviously, I have nothing here because I was a horrible journaler, and I just tried to do this. But if you go through, you can see that I did keep a journal. So this is from 2019, 2018, It's just like, oh, I did intakes to a clinic, which is like taking vitals. So during that pre-application prep time that I was talking about, like summer before you're applying, this is what I did. I went back through, because in nursing school for us, we had to keep journals of clinical experiences. And for a lot of classes, like Utah Health Scholars, you have to do journal entries and whatnot. And for some classes, I don't know anymore. Well, they have to do stuff. But I would like write about what I did, or like, oh, I had a patient with 87% machine sat levels. The doctor was in the clinic and like they had an administered nebulizer without the doctor's order, and they were freaking out. Like it was just throughout, it was a long-term marathon. But I went through and I started kind of editing and putting things I remembered in my hours and my like actual journals, like, oh, I'll like, this is from my the DP secretary. And today we plan skeleton and next year's activities, activities of the summer. I realized this is a club council, I'm the female, makes me happy there's a specific female like medical phone on campus for animal. That was also secretary of them. So like I'm really happy because this is like for everybody, but I'm really happy with like an outreach. Like I was what, 19, so like that's like now looking back, I'm like, wow, I've changed a lot since then. Like my outlook on animal, my outlook on like like things have evolved, and it's cool because I can go back and be like, oh, I mentioned contrast, and this was a really helpful thing when writing my application. So if you are currently applying or are going to apply the next cycle, so you need to, and even if you want to, it's so helpful to journal. At least not, you don't have to do it consistently, obviously, but if you just go through and like, oh, like I had presented at you for this week, and I kind of felt really good about it. I feel like I could work on this in the future. I saw this really cool poster on the ozone diet. I saw whatever you saw, just like write it out. I have a notes app on my phone, like all of us do, reloaded, and I have like notes from volunteering, like. I would say X, like I put like one word that would make me trigger that thought and then write on that, basically, what I got home. So I would just try to make it a dear diary, I want to be a doctor. But you could do a dear diary, I want to go to PhD school, or hey, I like Sheena now, she's what you're applying to, right? You're applying, you're like in the gap, right? Mm-hmm. So like Sheena's going to be starting to draft her application for grad school. She has to write a personal statement, you have to put together your CV, you have to put together all that stuff. It's really helpful to have all of that stuff. So I did that from July to December. So I went through, I got all of the things I did together. No, and past 15 activities to be in 15 months, one hour later. But I just gathered all the info. October 2020, started studying for the MCAT. I was rough because, again, like life doesn't stop. You're applying med school, lots of things happen. You could ask these two. I was absolutely crazy during that time, like not my normal self, just because I'm graduating, like major life changes, like in and out of family, like family drama, relationship drama, friend drama, like, you know, everything's going on when you're fine, you feel like. So it's really important to make time to prioritize your med school, but I've learned keeping like med school where it belongs in terms of it's not, you want it to be your life, but you don't want it to be your life. May 2021. So that's when I submitted my MCAS. That was look my timeline before I took the MCAS. That was really scary for me. Doug recommends doing it. Why? Because that means your applications are into med school day one. If your scores are released early. I did it knowing my med school, my MCAS score wouldn't be released day one, but it would be towards top of the pile in terms of how soon it was accepted. We'll talk. So then, last year was June 4th, and my score was released about a month later, July 8th, because of July. Lots of time off these med schools, make you wait. Then August to October, that's when you're kind of sitting and worried and bored and you're freaking out that all my stuff don't really really good. Please send me an interview invite. You also get like secondaries during that time. But for me, I was like very pre-wrote my secondaries at that point. So I got my first interview, or my first interview at August 4th. That's pretty early in the cycle, which is a little bit why. And then my last interview was literally 2 weeks. So yay, it's takes a pretty long time, as you can see, right? A while. And then November 2021, my first accepted. I got another one a couple weeks ago, and then I should hear back next week. They told me originally out of there. We don't trust them. But that's a timeline. And that's super similar to what many leaders have. It will be in school during it. Okay, so primaries, Dr. Gray. So primaries are like the AMCAP application that everybody has to deal with. That Doug was like my biggest help with that. But really, it was the talking to people that love me. So for me, that was like the presidents, people that applied like the cycle. For example, Skylar's playing this cycle. I would like chit chat with we're friends, or like our friend Landon applied a cycle before I did. So, and I would always say, hey, do you want a coffee? And then tell me how it's going. And like, I'll read that for you, just to see what they're going through the thought process. Utah Health Scholars here in the HBC has actual copies of applications of students that have been accepted. And I worked there, so I was very lucky. I got to go sit in my office during office hours and look at them. But you can go in there and ask, can I look at those? And actually see students that got accepted and see what they wrote. There are a lot of things in there that are wrong, right? But there are a lot of things in there that work, because obviously they got accepted. Again, take that with a grain of salt, because everybody's application is different. You don't want to make yours like yours. But it's a really good starting point to see what's required of you in terms of the application. My biggest help with primaries definitely was YouTube, not specifically Dr. Gray, but just YouTube in general. Right now, like if you put AMCAP application review, there are so many students that want to kind of feel more. I got accepted to some school. Look at my whole application. Here's just play by play. Dr. Gray does those as well, and super nitpicky with them. They'll take ones that have been accepted, that haven't accepted. That was like really big. And that was kind of my primary thing. So that from like the July to December of that year was really focusing, getting my primary application done, getting my 15 experiences, activities. Now, I don't know how much you know about that. I mean, I know Skylar knows a lot because I mentioned her and Sheena knows, but do you know what type of activities do you have to have?
I feel like for the most part.
Like what? Specifically?
Volunteering, patient exposure, research. Shoot.
There's a lot. There's like
Yeah.
6, I think. But really, those things are not requirements for how many you have in your application. I thought Doug structured it like you need to have like 2 of each. You really don't. You shouldn't highlight all of them, but you don't need to have 3 shadowing entries. You have 1, and it doesn't have to be as much. Like my shadowing entry is with 80 hours, 75 hours, and I have 1 entry. That's it. Research, you don't have to have a lot. You get to formulate your story. I had a pretty research heavy story. I had 3 research experiences that I wanted to highlight, so I put those in there. But that means I took away from other things. But I didn't understand that I really get to pick and choose what they get to see. So I would love them to have enough experiences and collect enough and kind of make up, not really make up, but amplify and make those experiences a little bit more valuable than maybe words would like to me at the time for the application. Dr. Gray talks about that a lot, and a couple of his like application reviews is kind of knowing your audience. And so one of the things I do is like trying to tell a story from each experience. Really hard. So my first, I guess, role, I like tip is going through after journaling, is making an outline of the tasks for each activity that you did. Because it was so helpful to go back through and have like a legitimate, like a document essentially with bullet points. This is so this is not how you want to input information or AMCAPs. People have done it as bullet points. So this is going through the bullet points, like ABCD, like I did this, I did that, I did that. Now that works for some people, like if you have individuals, it doesn't work for me. I'm a student, I talk all day, I talk all day. But see, I have my outline task here. People will just submit that. And to me, that's terrifying because you don't learn anything about yourself. This application in your writing is the only way they're going to get to know who you are. So then I would go over my outline task and I said, ooh, I could tell a story from my task right here. And then for each task that I did, I would count the amount of characters because your application is in one characters. And that changes per year. For me, it was like 750. But if you can see, I went 1, 2, 3, 4. I went to 15. I think I had a couple extra experiences towards the end. Yeah. But I didn't even finish it because I was like, this is not as useful because for those ones I just typed it out. But I outlined my tasks and then wrote a paragraph about it. From there, went forward and wrote more and more and more drafts. So this was kind of like my first rough draft. You're going to need to know the title of the person, the hours you did, the emails, the phone numbers, because they all put that in. It's like academic service. They have artistic endeavors, but clinical observations, shadowing, leadership, paid employment, kind of just like saying, do you get to make all of these things? That's what I did here. It was one of the most. It's not even a journal. It's just like I remember I was a tutor for this class 2 years ago, and what did I do today? You didn't say what. Right. That's what, and then try to post record each experience. Not be very hard on this. Doug harped on this. I'm gonna work on it. Landon, our friend that I got to he's going to touch me now, harped on it. My friend that goes to review said the only reason he got it. So what I looked at was like a puzzle. Each paragraph, essentially, that's all you get of your activities is a piece of a puzzle. The personal statement is like, oh, this is the centerpiece. And then all these little things are extra. Because if you look at my statistics, I really should not have gotten in the cycle. Like the only thing I got going for me was my writing and my experiences. And I had the dean of the best schools and I was like, oh, thanks. You know, I love hearing I'm not qualified besides, you know, my other things. But it also speaks to how important writing is. So that was really important. Primary, you get it done, you get it in. I got mine done before, like I prioritized my primary before my MCAT, and that's reflected in my application. To me, I felt like I could tell a better story than my test score. So that's secondaries. Okay. After the MCAT, I gave myself a week. Like, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm done. I gave myself a week of just relaxing. And at this point, you don't know your score. So I was like, I probably got 520, you know, I'm chilling. I'm like gonna party it up, you know. I studied my butt off, I did some good. Yes, these two, I was so happy. I went home and I made like homemade ramen. So I gave myself a week after the MCAT. And then I just jump back over and like, I'm gonna get these secondaries done, so I'm done with them by the time. Or like by the time I get my MCAT back. And I don't have to stress about it because I was helping teach this like next semester, doing research, and just I was just busy. I don't want to deal with that later. So I gave myself a week after the MCAT. I started pre-writing on my secondaries. I'll talk about school. So when I submitted my primary application, you have to submit a school with it. You have to submit one. Most people just submit one. I submitted 5 because I knew I would go to those 5 schools. If I like, those are schools within my reason that I connect with without statistics involved, and they're places I would want to live. Like I would really want to go. So I went through each school, and I based mine kind of off of not school. I based it off of other things in my life. Like for example, I was born and raised in Hawaii. University of Hawaii has Jackson or Burns School of Medicine. I would love to go home and serve the people that like raised who I was. So I said, okay, I'm gonna apply there. Utah, University of Utah, great school, cheap tuition. I'm an in-state resident up here, I'll apply there too. Something like, okay, you're skiing, you're snowboarding, cool, awesome. Apply to Loma Linda, that's my church school, my religion. So I'm like, I'm gonna apply there, their values align with mine, a good global health program. I have family in the area. I like California, I like the beach. I'm one flight away from home. There's like other things. I wouldn't even look at the program at that point. And then I applied to, oh my gosh, this one's out there. I made this decision like when I was just tired. I'm gonna go to Vermont. Like, what the heck? Let's go to Vermont. My backpack, I like to snowboard. And Burlington, Vermont, where the med school is like snowboarding capital of the East Coast. I'm like, yeah, med school, I'll apply there for the heck of it. What's like $100? I can work an extra shift and cover it. Applied there. Or you just throw that school out. And then I applied to Central Michigan. And that was because of my professor that I made, like my friend here, Dr. Meyer. She went there. Oh, sorry. And our friend got in there. Because of that. I'm like, I'll apply there because I'm much better friends with her than him, so I'll obviously get in. But so that was kind of my application. I went in with 5 schools. Okay, we're gonna send it with 5 because I'm gonna apply this cycle and whatever. I went with 5 applications, only 1. And then for secondaries, I knew the 5 schools I was applying to already, so I had enough. I had time to write those 5. And I looked at prompts, and I didn't know this, but all the prompts are available online for all the schools. I mean, some of they change, obviously, for a year, but you could go back from cycle 2021, all the way back to 2015. You look at cycles on the Savvy Pre-Med. So it's kind of like the MSTAR, but it's between the MSTAR and the Student Doctor Network. And it's Student Doctor Network is like Pre-Med Reddit, where you go and you like feel so bad about yourself. And then MSTAR is like the official AMC, like these are all the like happy standards. The Savvy Pre-Med I found was a really good resource for me. I like to know Dr. Gray's stuff in terms of writing secondaries, because they would literally list out the question, what cycle it was from, and then you could click links to different examples. So I really liked it, and it really helped with some school specific. For example, Utah always asks the same question. And if you know that, you're technically done. Loma Linda, that's what I do, ask the same questions. Hawaii asks the same questions. And guess that because inference, if they have 5 years in a row, they added a couple of new ones that expired this last cycle. But I just used previous prompts in Savvy Pre-Med and wrote all of my essays out. And I was doing this back home in Hawaii, and it was hard with a 4-year-old brother running around. I was taking care of my dad and my grandma. I was like, I don't know how I'm doing this, but they really like being around the family and a support system really helped at least write from the heart that I'm not surrounded by. So like you take your own cat, you go put time off, rest, but then jump back on it, and really, I very much the family, man, they helped read your stuff because they know who you are, but they also like help in school selection, and they maybe they were too much credit, but they helped with like a lot of my application, and they read a lot of things. She never read a lot of them. You read a lot of them. So it's just like finding that support system helped, and I found that a lot with last year. That was like my group, my cohort. So they're like, I don't know how many times we stuck into room and just hung out here at the college. But that's not recorded. I mean, that not here. That was at the library, the public library. But it was really helpful to find that cohort. So once you're applying, and you know who's applying with you, become friends with them, or at least know who they are, check on them. That's what I do. And I try to do. I mean, now that I'm in a different state, I'm not here anymore. But at least when I was here, I would always talk to Colton or Cody or Keaton and like say, hey, where have you applied? Or where are you going? Like, you know, what's going on? And it was really nice. It was helpful. And they helped lots. This is like, I think.
Because Myers said that you interview really well.
I did not know
Really?
that until like a year ago when I realized. I looked back and I was like preparing for interviews, and I was preparing for all this stuff. Every interview I've gone to, I've always gone to one. And I've been to a lot of interviews. But like job wise, yeah, school wise, actually I got rejected from one school that I interviewed at in high school. The interviewer and I are still friends, so I think that in that sense is good. But interview prep, I didn't really prep much for interviews. Like everybody's like, Hanna's always prepared. I'm really doing it. Like today, I was like so excited, so I made a PowerPoint, which I was talking. But interview prep. So the biggest thing I did was just being comfortable with who I was, and it sounds like so sensational, but it's like being comfortable in your own skin. But in this case, your skin is your application. So I put so much work into my application. I knew the ins and outs of it. I knew I had extra stories on top of what I put in there to back it up, which is why taking a lot of time to write your application, no matter if you're going to grad school, Gina, or if you're going to med school or dental school, whatever, to really bulk it up with stories that you can back up with more stories. For example, I had a patient, a heart attack, and she was a really big reason why I wanted to be. Because as a nurse, one of the things in my patient was like, I was limited by knowledge of my practice. As a nurse, like, yeah, medicine is awesome, I love it, but I wasn't required to know the pharmacokinetics and how this impacted the body in certain ways. Like, okay, yeah, my patient had a heart attack, I have to send them out to the hospital. But I'm like, okay, well, what happened? What's the bigger picture? How can I help this from not happening again? Oh yeah, we changed the diet for the patient that got that. Oh, we changed the medications, like something went wrong. And I wanted to know more about that. So I talked about that. But that wasn't the only instance that happened. It was just one of the most impactful. So then during my interviews, I bring it up. Okay, oh my gosh, when I was this, that. And so it helped. I researched myself more than this. And that sounds so weird, but I really just wanted to know. They asked a question. I have an example for that. I got you. Like, I don't have to reference anything. So that's that. Let's see. I did research. My interview day prep was the day before. I always do it. I give myself like 24 hours. And the day before, I was always working for some reason. There's always like some sort of anniversary or birthday party. It was always busy. So that morning, usually work. Get up the morning before, set up my interview space. So like at the time, I would like pretend to have an interview day for myself. And I stole my climber dude boyfriend's bedroom because his roommates were never home, and I didn't do it in my house because my family's always home. I didn't do it here because I wasn't a student. I was like an adjunct faculty, so I didn't really do anything here. And I didn't want to like say, hey Rico, or hey Maya, or hey Davis, can I borrow a room? Because I didn't want to take it away from the university. I also didn't want people walking in and out of traffic. So I picked a place where there's not a lot of traffic throughout the day. And then good lighting, like making sure there's natural light, not much light, depends on the time of day. That's why I gave myself 24 hours before. But I got a ring light and that helped. I got my for $15 on. You're applying to med school, just don't get coffee for a couple days. That's what my thought process was. But luckily I worked an extra shift and got money for a ring light. So that's what I did. It helps. I might sell it. So we do have one.
I don't have one.
But
I'll buy it.
She don't want it for selfies, not for interviews.
I will say every pre-interview prep, I would take a picture. I don't know. I would always post on Instagram.
You
Interview
tested
day.
with me. You
Yeah,
tested
I
it
would
with
test
me.
it with people the day before, right before, depending on the time. So I set up literally set up my space. And it sucked because if my boyfriend lives in that room, that's his room. And I said, you cannot touch this whole corner of the room. You can't go near it. It's set up for me, perfect angles, everything. And I would lay my suit out and have it ready. So when I wake up in the morning, it's probably 9 a.m. I just run over, switch, turn on. So that was kind of I would get hyped that way. Simple background, if not clear background, it's a big deal, especially now going into the, at least if you presented on Zoom before, you know that. You don't want to have a lot of people going in the back, and if you have notes, it's just so annoying because you look in the back and you're like, I can see that there's people behind you, I'm distracted by the people, and I'm not listening to you. The only issue is like, you can't control some things. For example, in my interview with the University of Utah, I had the yard people come around and they were like, leaf blower in my yard. I was like, what are you doing? You know, you got any other time, but right now, and I literally said to the interviewer, I'm so sorry. The leaf blower is distracting me a little bit. My answer might not be as cohesive when I'm a little bit. Like, I really should have said, I'm a little stressed out because they're leaf blowing and I can't hear what I'm thinking. And he laughed and I was like, I'm just honest. But then, so that's just my prep. Then let's talk about what I actually did research inside myself was the interviewers. Because sometimes they do this. I Google everybody, right? Like either right before, the day before, just to know who my audience was. That's kind of the biggest thing I noticed with presentations. Like today, I know it's not, I don't want to say it's not a big deal, it's a little more relaxed than medical school, or if I'm supposed to be presenting at UCUR today. A lot of the times I prep a lot more for those, but for this one I'm kind of winging it. That's how I treated this, and that's what they're like. I get it this far, they like me this much, I'm just gonna go into it. How fast? Because at this point, I scored really bad on my MCAT, like below 505, like really bad. I was just like, yay, I was gonna reapply, I'm gonna be in school. Like I was excited because I would reapply with Skylar. I'm like, me and Skylar could work on things together, yay. And at the time, Sheena was also gonna go to med school, and so I was like, oh, I could reapply with my friends, I won't be alone. So I went into all of these interviews kind of just relaxed. But I researched all my interviewers before, kind of got to know my audience. It's really helpful when presenting them. Like today, you know, kind of like science based conference, we know what we're doing, where we're at. When I was in my internship, I knew my audience is very educated, so I have to have my sources there. For a lot of the med school interview places, med school interviews online, they do have like review sites where you could go, like, and I think it's student adopting that program, but it's actually useful and it's not like that. You go on and they rate like how the interview went. Obviously, this is different because it's full data in terms of this was pre-COVID. So they have to go in and actually experience the schools, but the questions were kind of sort of similar. So did that. Research interviewers literally looked up, oh, there's spinal surgery. Cool. I'll talk about my experience in surgery. Oh, this person, the teacher of, oh yeah, I had a palliative doctor at U. I had a palliative doctor at U ask me a question. I'm like, cool, I have home health and hospice experience. That I'll gear my question towards that. It sounds like it's a super bad, but you manipulate the interview where you want to go. Doug told me that. You get asked this question, you don't know how to do it. Answer the question, but answer it in a way that you have an answer. You don't want to fake anything, and that's why it was important to know your application. You know you wrote it well, you know your application, you know onward, and that sort of thing. Okay. These are some websites. MCAS application is number one. I have my application up. School selection with the NSR. School, like $25 for 2 years. If you don't have it now, get it next year. You should get it this next summer. If you want, I got my 2 years from undergrad, but I took a gap year. So if you want to apply regularly, MSR is really good for helping in school selection because you got to see the stats for each school, who was accepted, who wasn't. You know, I use that, and I use the second pre-med, and then I just use my what I wanted. School selection wise, secondary, savvy pre-med search school. Like I love this place. I don't know. I didn't hear about it until I came to Google stuff, but here we go. UCLA, and then it goes like image requirement level, breadth requirement, and then it kind of goes here. Okay, secondary SAT, interview types or not, then it goes and gives you all. And it goes through all of them. So like you could find these online, but this was just an easy way for me to search the school in one place that I use this website a lot. and especially in writing more reviews, because I was like, they look at your secondaries. A lot of schools, they don't get primaries, but look at the only good interview is your primaries and your secondaries. So I had to kind of keep that. And certain schools are a little bit more strict and ask a little bit more, like UCLA, I don't know what it's on, but Melinda was asking super specific questions. And you got to go and see how other people answered those questions and kind of be like, oh, I relate to that. But yeah, so you can search up whatever school you want, by MCAT, by that. So I use this a lot in addition to MSR in terms of like what I was feeling.
It's so confusing.
I know. Secondaries is that I also use that for interview prep. Interview prep with the student document work. This is what I was saying was like the student document network interview feedback. But like a specific page of SDN, because SDN is like Reddit for pre-meds. It's like a hit or miss. Sometimes they're super toxic, like I've been like alluding to. Sometimes they're super helpful, but a lot of the times they're a bunch of what we call gunners. I used to be a gunner. I try not to be. Where like just super competitive, like, oh, I had like a 520,000 on the MCAT. I have like 25,000 hours of patient exposure. I'm publishing like 20 different things. Am I gonna get in? That was unrealistic for me. Like, I'm not about that, like feeling bad about myself. So I went and I just ignored that part and only went to this part. And if you could see like, oh, how was the interview? This is, oh, most people, this is for you. Most people really liked it. And you could kind of see how you did, like how did you rank at school? Again, like how long was the interview? And then let's see, like how many people interviewed you? But then if you go down, there's like questions, specific questions they ask you. And then like, oh, it's an MMI style interview. They ask why medicine, why Utah. A lot of like school MMIs you cannot really share questions. Like I could, if you want to know about it, I could give generic examples, but this is probably the worst one. But like, how do you prepare for the interview? And like these are just from anybody, so I don't know if they're accepted or not. But it was good just to see other people's thought processes through it. But I use this a lot, kind of just to see like, okay, like how did I prep ahead? Like, oh, this one a lot of box checking, which you know you could tell by your interview if they have the box checking or better application or secondaries, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh, it's like, what impressed you negatively? It seemed like a computer school. Or like, oh, the anatomy lab is a separate building. Things like little things that are like, oh, that's interesting. Again, this kind of goes into like going to the actual schools. But yeah, that's one website I use a lot in terms of. So that's my application. Primary, secondary. That's there's like way more than it. I can share that. Alrighty, this is my application. I didn't get anything. Anyway, this is completing my application. I reported it. Everything was submitted like so I submitted it as soon as possible for you guys after I took my MCAT. And I submitted it with 5 schools. Again, you can submit it with just 1. I picked 5 because I'm like, I'm gonna, regardless of MCAT score, I'm applying to those 5. So I did that. A lot of people, for example, Tyler's boyfriend Colton, I don't know how many he initially submitted. I think it wasn't like, it was like 2. Yeah. He like, so you could submit 1 and then you add schools after you, which is really smart. I didn't do that because I forgot my MCAT score. I was like, I'm gonna send this one out. I don't want to put any more waste. So this is like what the beginning looks like. Birthday, all of the kind of information. I got to talk about my childhood. So I grew up girl underserved, which means really great. Which means it's great. It's not great growing up, but it's great for me now, at least in college stuff. So I got to write kind of about not your disadvantage question. If you have never received FAFSA or anything along those lines, you probably don't qualify unless there's something else. That's kind of what I was thinking of. Like if you've never been a minority or anything like along those lines, you don't really get to, but nobody ever talked about this on any of my interviews, any of my like secondary, like depending on the school, I have additional like social talks, like that's really nobody's ever asked about it. So like pointless. Let's see. All right, grades. Here's my fun grades where they decrease. I had the opposite form of the trend, like in terms of grades, like my grades did not go up. Yay, I'm skipping past that because it's embarrassing still. I'm accepted, so I don't care, but I'm still just like rough. It was rough. A lot of schools, depending on the school, you can apply MUHG, you can take your GRE and all right, this is what it looks like. And you saw it was super kind of similar to how I did my bullet points. Experience type, name, that, phone number, dates, hours. And if you want, I'm never going back to this thing again. Now that I've accepted, I'm like, screw you, I don't want to do that anymore. All right, it's really like vulgar, but serious. This just, it takes over your life. But you can see, like, I did not do the bullet points. I wrote about what I did. I was very specific in what I wrote about. If you don't know, you get 15 experiences, but you also get to have a most meaningful experience essay, or I think 3 of them. Gosh, I feel like I know. Once I submitted this, I'm not looking at it again until I was interviewing. But then I would write another additional thing depending on that. So it's like when it's meaningful, that's like that whole thing. You can see I got a lot of hours on this one because I was in a job for 2 years. A lot of these experiences you can also project in terms of like in the future. So for example, if you are applying as a junior or whatever, if you're applying your senior, you apply your senior year. Sorry. For example, if you're submitting this and you're doing extra stuff like throughout your senior year, like you're applying for junior summer, essentially, you could project some hours. I just decided to put in what I had already because I had enough. So I was like, I'm not going to project anything. And they noticed that and they asked, so are you not doing anything now? We saw you didn't put any projected hours. I'm like, oh, I am. I just didn't choose to go. You can. Dr. Gray mentioned that it's good if you don't have a lot of stuff going for you on your application. You don't have enough to go 15 spots. Then, yeah, that's wise. But if you do, like if you're early enough, like you are, where you have a lot of time, you don't have a lot, but you have time, that's okay. Like if I was you, and if I wasn't, like I wasn't on top of my game, but if you weren't on top of your things, then you can project some stuff like, oh, I am doing an internship next summer. Great, that's awesome. You can put it on there, and then by the time you're interviewing and accepted, it should be at least started or have more info on it. Look at that. Stuff you can log this like virtually. But yeah, this is really what it looks like. Experience. This is the biggest bulk of it. Great, there's more. Yeah, most of that under but yeah, like if you guys see one interesting, you can even read through my personal statement, which took a long time to write as well. But then I had my letters and I did apply to Michigan State, but I didn't want to pay another $100 for Michigan. They require even for secondary, so I don't count them. But I was like, oh, I'll submit an application because at that point it was only $50. So I submitted a primary. Then I was like, $150 for a school I'm not crazy about. Nah, so I didn't. Meyer, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I love your alma mater, but I did not want to. But yeah, that's my application. Again, interviews, I really just won it. I had a 24-hour prep, and that's all I did. Like, Google the people, go look at my application. And oh, I did do some, but they were not, like, I never went around with like a flash deck and like, what is this and what's that? But what I did do was practice it to myself in the mirror, or when I set up my little setup, I would do 3 or 4 questions, and be like, this is how I would answer it just to myself. And I would do just 10 minutes of that. Oh, and I would use the bathroom. If something happened during my interview and I need to go to the bathroom, that would be the worst thing ever. Good thing it's like Zoom, so it's spaced out. But I was just like, if something were to happen and I needed to like run to the bathroom, that would be the worst thing. One of my Hawaii interviews, I talked about, yeah, I'm all done.
No, no, no.
Not you.
I'm done, like, this is a, but I ate. One of my Hawaii interview. Listen, that one, it was fine, because the lady was actually like auntie's, uncle's, cousin's, friends, sisters, nephews, brother's, cousin, like didn't reach. It was fine. And it was a really good interview, like, we're gonna go surfing in like 2 months from now. But she was like, she's like, are you okay? Because I had spicy tacos before this and I shouldn't have. So just make sure you're like in your most comfortable state to be sitting there like all day. And you're not really all day, like 4 hours. That's like all I did. Interview wise, if you want to have a mock interview day anytime with me, you can more than welcome me to come around my schedule. So I guess I could really do that. I'm not good at giving feedback for interviews just because I guess I interview well. It's really just answering the question and answering them with stories of your own, not made up stories. I really referenced my application a lot about it, just because I put so much work into that writing that's really my heart on paper. So if you don't like that when I'm verbalizing it and go out a little more bits and pieces elsewhere, I think that's what you're getting. So I don't want to go to mental. Yeah, this is my vision statement. This is the part. You want to go ahead and read it? I can scroll down. That's that. Me, that's all my stuff. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.